friends, welcome back to another Renee's Corner video. I am still at home. If you guys can tell, I'm sitting in the car because I don't know, recording at home is really difficult for me, but when I'm in a car, I used to do car talks on my channel, and so this is like very nostalgic for me. And I just think car talks are better because like who doesn't talk in the car? Anyway, so basically this video, I wanted to answer some of the most common questions that I get in my email. I get quite a few emails from you all subscribers about application things and about like very specific situations, and so I do appreciate the emails. It's no bother or whatever, but I figured it might be good to make a video about some of the most commonly asked questions that I get in these emails, so that if you're feeling like uncomfortable or whatever with emailing, or if you just didn't know to ask these questions, here's a video that you can refer to for like some of the commonly asked application questions that I get. So they're on my phone. So the first one is, do you have to take the GRE Subject Test? So the short answer to that is it depends. It depends on two things. One, if you want to take it, and two, if the school you want to apply to requires it. So none of the schools that I applied to required it, and honestly, this is gonna sound bad, but like if the school required the subject test, I just wasn't gonna apply there because I don't like standardized testing. I don't know anybody who is like particularly fond of it, but I was just like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. But if there's a school that you really, really love and you really, really want to go to, and they required the subject test, you'll have to take it. But none of the schools that I really, really loved required it. So does your GPA and GRE score matter? So another it depends, but yes, they both matter because they're both kind of like thresholds you have to get over so that your application can make it into the hands of the professor that you want to work with. So basically, like, I think of the GRE and your GPA is kind of like hurdles, like benchmarks for you to meet, so that once like the person meets this benchmark, then they have to meet the GRE benchmark, then they have to meet the GPA benchmark, and then okay, we'll look at their application. Basically, hopefully that makes sense. It's just like it matters to the point where like you have to do good and you can't like slack off in either category, but it doesn't matter in the sense that like nobody is going to ask you about it in your interview or anything like that. So take that for what it is. How many schools should I apply to? So online I've seen about they recommend that you apply to about 10 to 14 schools. I didn't apply to that many. Yeah, they said that you should apply to 10 to 14 like clinical psychology doctoral programs. I did not apply to that many clinical psych PhD programs. I may have applied to 9. Yeah, just because one of the reasons I didn't apply to so many is just because my interests are kind of broad and there's not that many people doing sort of the research that I'm interested in clinical psych, so it kind of like narrowed down my list anyways. But it really just depends on how many schools or how many people are doing the kind of research that you're looking for and the experience that you research or the experience that you're looking for. If the person at that school that you want to work with is accepting students, because that's sometimes hit or miss. And then I guess the last thing is just like how much you can afford. Applications are very, 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 very expensive, and applying to schools that like you don't love and applying to people that you don't love is kind of like a waste of time, because it's a waste of time and a waste of money. Like you have to pay so much for GRE scores to be sent, transcripts, applications, and all this other stuff. Like you shouldn't. It's cost like, I think my applications total was almost $2,000, and that's not even including traveling to interviews. So it's just expensive, and you shouldn't apply to places that you don't like, or that you don't that you're not like in love with, basically. Yeah, so what does a competitive application look like? So I don't know if I'm actually qualified to answer this because I don't look at applications, but basically I think what you should be aiming for is For your GRE scores, probably above the 60th percentile is like the cutoff. I don't know, I'm totally making that up. I don't know what the actual cutoffs are. You should look into the schools. They, on their websites, they're required to put in average scores of the students that are coming in. That gives you like a ballpark range of what the scores are. So these are the marks that I followed. So, you know, take that for what it is. So I tried to get my GRE score above the 60th percentile in all categories. I made sure that my GPA was above a 3.5. And I made sure to take, you know, different types of psychology classes. Sorry, I'm looking out the window because I'm trying to think about my application profile. Make sure that you're taking different types of psychology programs. There are like a minimum list of requirements, but I think that it looks good on your application to have like some other electives in psychology that sort of speak to your interest. What else? Oh, and two of the most important things are experience. And experiences in two different domains, in clinical work and then experience in research. So you should have at least, I would say, about 2 years of research experience, like whether that be internships, whether that be doing a post-baccalaureate program, whether that be, you know, independent research at your school, just some sort of research experience that, you know, sets you apart. I'm not necessarily saying that you should have publications or anything like that, because I didn't have publications, and I'm not sure if anybody in my cohort has any publications, but like that's not like the thing that matters. The thing that matters is experience. And then in terms of clinical experience, it probably looks good if you have at least like 1 or 2 clinical experiences. So like for me, I did peer counseling as an undergrad. I don't know where that was going, but I did peer counseling as an undergrad, and I also taught youth for a few years, like during summer camps and stuff. Like I was like a teacher for 2 years or so, doing a summer camp. So basically they're looking for experiences, they're looking for above average GPA and GRE scores, and they're looking for, you know, somebody who like not has it all together, but has a story of like what all of that means together and why you want to pursue grad school. What to say in the initial email to professors. So for me, what I did was I emailed right after Labor Day, I want to say, and I emailed professors to see if they were accepting students and to sort of like introduce myself so that when they get my application, they know who I am. It's like a trick of the trade. So what I said in my emails was like, hi, I'm Tanisha Johnson. I graduated from here. Hang on 1 second, let me pull up an email. So I found the email and I'm going to insert a screenshot over here. And so basically what I said is, hi, my name is Tanisha. I'm a post-baccalaureate HMB fellow in the Families, Communities, and Child Development Lab under the direction of Dr. Elizabeth at University of Pittsburgh. I graduated from Hampton in 2016 with a BA in psychology and with a concentration in family and marriage, and I'm applying the clinical psychology programs in the fall. And so I'm very interested in your school and the school's program, and I believe that your research on X, Y, and Z relates really well to my interest in Y and Z or whatever. I would really love to be considered for a position in your lab, and I'm emailing to ask if you are accepting a graduate student for fall 2016. I've attached a copy of my CV for your reference. Thank you for your time and effort. So basically this is like an introduction email to, 1, say your interest, 2, to kind of like perk their ears so that when they get your application, it's not like, oh, Johnny Smith, like who is that? But like they know who you are because they're like, oh yeah, I got an email from this person. Also with the emails things is to just like not feel a type of way if you don't get a response, because I don't think so. Some of the places I went on interviews to, I didn't get a response from the professors anyways. So it really doesn't matter if they respond or not. If they respond, great, that's a good sign. But if they don't respond, that's not a bad sign, if that makes sense. How do you know how do you know the school and the research mentor is the right fit? So for me, I'm not the best person to answer this because like for me it just has to feel right. So for me, feeling right is like I don't really have any like anxiety about the thing. So like for SLU, I had visited SLU in 2015, like March of 2015, with a program that helps like underrepresented students or minority kids get into grad school. So I had already visited here and it felt like good. I was like, okay, this is perpetually going to be on my list. So I've applied to SLU twice at this point. So I applied my senior year to the same in person and lab, and I was like, this feels right. Like her research interest is right up my alley. I bring in this like new concept that she doesn't really look at, and you know, it kind of merges together really well. For me, I was looking for schools and programs that were not competitive, where students feel like they have to like, you know, like one up each other or be better than each other. Like I don't thrive well in that environment, and some people do, but Tanisha does not. So I was really looking for that kind of environment. I was looking for a slightly bigger program than like 3 or 4 students. I was looking for somebody who was, I really just wanted to look at somebody who was doing work on impoverished communities and work in sort of this racial discrimination section. And yeah, so for me, the right fit was like, okay, here, my advisor is a person of color, which is important to me because I'm a person of color. She's a woman. The environment here isn't competitive at all. Like the students, like you can tell that the students genuinely like each other, which is a big deal to me because I don't want to be around people that don't like each other. Like it's just annoying. So you can tell that the students like each other. The curriculum, I wasn't gonna be here 7-8 years in the program. And yeah, so for me, that was the right fit. But for you, like it may be something completely different. Like you might want a program that's more competitive because like it gives you the edge to keep like pushing forward and doing more and like achieving more. But for me, being competitive is just like, it stunts me. Like I just, as soon as something is competitive, I'm like, oh nah, it's not for me. So yeah, so that's how I knew what the right fit was. So the last question is, do you have to get a master's degree to get a PhD in psychology? And the answer to that is it depends. So it depends on the program you're looking at, but for clinical psych, I can't think of any programs that, I can't think of any programs that required a master's degree. Most of the programs required a bachelor's degree, and I think almost every program I applied to, you earn a master's degree along the way. So it's not like you have to have one to begin with. But that's not to say that because you have a master's degree, you won't get in. It's probably fine. Several people in my cohort have master's degrees in different fields and other psychology fields. So it's really up to you. I know that some people do a master's degree to help boost their GPA and their psychology GPA, which I mean, hey, go for it. But yeah, so basically you don't have to, but you can if you want to. And yeah, so those are, so those are the last questions. So yeah, those are the most commonly asked questions that I get in my email quite often, and so I figured it would just be better for me to answer them all here. Be sure to check out my application guide videos playlist. I will leave a link in the description so that you can just click on that and look at all my application tips and tricks, because applications open soon. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. If you have any other application questions, I'll be happy to answer them down in the comments. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on my Instagram and on my Twitter. I'm more on Twitter than Instagram, but you know, whatever. And that's basically it. So peace out, and I'll see you guys next week.